Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
We've been transfixed with these images of rockets flying in from two sides, particularly at night in night skies, and then hitting each other. It's almost like the kind of scenes we saw in Ramayana on TV or all the film adaptations of Ramcharitmanas that we've seen. So on one side, Ravan shoots off an arrow and Bhagwan Ram shoots off his to block it or to cut it, or then Bhagwan Ram and his army, they shoot arrows and Raman and his army shoots arrows to cut them midway, to meet them midway and cut them. So this is almost like a replay of that. Now in this case, the game that's being played out over Israel's skies right now, it is impossible, it's also hazardous to say who is the good side, who is the bad side, who is Ram and who is Raman, because this is such a polarizing issue and so politicized, and this has geography, history, religion, ideology, left, right, American, pro-Americanism, anti-Americanism, Zionism, pan-Arabism, everything mixed up into it, that nobody sane, which I am at this point particularly, I am very cautious not to put a foot wrong, I am not getting into, because who's right, who's wrong is a determination that is not for us to make and cut the clutter. But we know the facts. So the facts are as follows. Hamas, which is an organization, which is an Islamist organization of the Palestinians, which rules a narrow strip of territory called Gaza. Gaza is a part of Palestine or generally the Palestinian Authority. I will come to what the clutter is there, because clutter again is geographical as well as political. So Hamas rules Gaza and Hamas has been firing these rockets. Hamas does not have an army, but it has a very strong military or militant wing. I will talk about that in just a bit. So they've been firing these rockets. These are pretty effective rockets, some going to the range of 70-80 kilometers, so they can reach Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, the heart centers of Israel. And Israel has been using its Iron Dome missile defense system, which is the world's sharpest short range missile defense system. So Hamas fires hundreds of these rockets, and to prevent them from hitting their targets, Israel has to also fire a lot of these Iron Dome missiles to go and intercept them. The difference is that the Hamas rockets are very cheap, they are homemade mostly, a lot have come from Iran, but mostly these are homemade, they are crude rockets, these are not guided, but to stop them Israel has to use very sophisticated, advanced interception technologies and guided missile systems with very fast reaction radars and fire control systems. So the cost on Israel of stopping each rocket coming from that side maybe is several hundred times the price of that rocket, if not several thousand times. So the two things that Hamas is trying to do, one is to raise the costs for Israel, and second maybe to overwhelm the Israeli defenses, that you can stop 100, 200, 300, 500, but what happens if on one day or one night I fire 1300, which is what they did last Friday over Israel. Even then more than 90% were stopped, a few found their target. So this is what is going on. So we have to understand a few things. One, you must be wondering what is going on, because some trouble had broken out in the Palestinian Israeli area, and we talked about it. In fact, we did an entire cut the clutter on this, but that was in East Jerusalem and that was in the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in the month of Ramzan, towards the end of the month of Ramzan, in fact on the Eid Eve. And you might think that Ramzan is over, Eid is over, nothing much is happening now in East Jerusalem. Looks like peace has been restored there, uneasy as it might be, but what kind of fighting is still going on between Palestinians and the Israelis? And what is this Hamas? We didn't hear about Hamas when there was trouble in East Jerusalem. Now we hear about Hamas. And what is this fighting about, and what is Gaza, and where is Gaza? So if you look at the geography of Gaza, that is the first clutter with it. Gaza is part of the Palestinian Authority's area, but the Palestinian area, but it is not linked to the Palestinian mainland, which is on the west bank of Jordan River. West bank of Jordan River is contiguous to the original Israel territories, 1967 Israel boundaries. After the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel conquered or captured all these West Bank territories from the Jordanians, who withdrew behind the Jordan River. So, since then, Palestinians who remained there, a lot of them left, they have gone to other countries, they are refugees. About 3 million of them are now in Jordan, about 5 million live in the old Palestinian territories in and around Israel. But 3 million live in Jordan, many live in other countries also. Now, what's happened is, while bulk of these territories are on the West Bank, there is this strip of a territory which is the other side of the peninsula. Now, the other side is along the Mediterranean. In fact, if you see, Israel is a thin country, but the other side of Israel borders or lies on the coastline of the Red Sea. So, the Israeli city of Eilat, as the Egyptian city of Sharm el-Sheikh, they are on Red Sea, but Tel Aviv is on the Mediterranean. So, a tiny country like Israel actually has two of these seas on at its two ends. So, along the Mediterranean, between Israel and Egypt, lies this tiny thin strip called Gaza Strip. Now, Gaza was part of Egypt, it was under Egyptian control. Israelis took it over, and ultimately Egyptians gave up its control, so it became autonomous. It became autonomous, but it has remained under Israeli control directly and indirectly. Even today, while it is part of the Palestinian Authority, it has its own election. It will ultimately, when a two-state solution comes, presumably be part of the two-state solution and Palestinian state. It has an elected government, but Israel controls quite a bit of it, just as they do with the Palestinian Authority. Now, this territory is led by Hamas, which is a group that is rival to the Palestinian Authority, the group that is leading the Palestinian Authority, the Fatah group, or let us say the original Yasser Arafat group, because that group is now called Fatah, and I will tell you where the name Fatah comes from in a minute. It is very interesting, but they do not like Hamas and Hamas does not like them. There are fundamental differences between them. Fatah is still secular. Some of the more prominent Palestinians we have known in the past were Christians. Hanan Ashrawi, one of the Palestinians' most articulate leader, known internationally, Hanan Ashrawi, a Christian. Similarly, George Habash, a great guerrilla leader, he set up an organization called PFLP, Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, also Christian. Fatah group claims to be secular. Fatah also accepts Israel's right to exist. So, they recognize the state of Israel, which Hamas doesn't. Hamas doesn't, and Hamas is Islamist. So, that is the essential difference, and that is the polarization in Palestinian politics, and that is where it becomes Hamas versus Fatah. In Gaza, Hamas won the election in 2006. Fatah had some of its officials there, Palestinian Authority had some Fatah linked officials. Hamas got rid of them. In 2007, there was a near war. Hamas threw them out, they were purged, many of them were assassinated. So, there is how much love lost between Fatah and Hamas? Zero. So, in fact, Hamas thinks that Fatah and Israelis are together, सब मिले हुए हैं उनकी उस तरफ में, whereas Fatah thinks that Hamas is a problem, it's a stumbling block to an eventual settlement. Hamas also gets support from those countries which may not like a settlement in the Middle East, which is Iran, Turkey, and then a country who you find everywhere in every trouble in the Middle East, but looking like the nice guy for some reason. Anyway, when you have that kind of cash, you can always manage to look like the nice guy. That is Qatar, and it's sort of ironical that the building that the Israelis recently brought down in Gaza, which got a lot of the world headlines, also housed the headquarters of Al Jazeera, which is a media house owned by the ruling family of Qatar. Anyway, let's not go there. How big is Gaza? Gaza is a very tiny place. Let me try and explain it to you. I can say it's 141 square miles, or I can say it's 362 kilometers. But how do I imagine what this is like? So think of Goa. Goa is among the smallest states of India. In the tiny state of Goa, if you look at Gaza, it is 1/10 the size of Goa in area. In fact, a little less than 1/10 the size of Goa in area. But in terms of population, it has a lakh more, or maybe 2 lakhs more, about 10% more population than Goa. Goa is just about 17 lakh people. This is about 19 lakh people in Gaza, and their numbers are rising at 3% per year. It's one of the fastest rising populations in the world. A lot of them are very poor. There is very little economic activity except foreign aid and unfortunately making of rockets and stuff like that, because how much can you do in a place as crowded as this and blockaded on the one side with Israel, with which it shares a 51-kilometer border, and on the other side by Egypt, where it's an 11-kilometer border. So both countries now blockade them. They still get aid from Qatar and Iran through Sudan and places, and Hamas has now built an elaborate network of tunnels which comes underneath the Egyptian territory to bring foreign aid and weapons and rockets from outside, because its coast is very closely watched and controlled by the Israelis. There is very little possibility of anything being smuggled in through the Mediterranean. So it is in that tiny territory. It is what the Americans would call a panhandle. You know what a panhandle is? When you take a frying pan or a patila, there is a thin strip like handle with which you hold it so that you don't get burnt. You put a little distance between the pan and the fire and yourself. So this territory is what the Americans would require, like a panhandle. It is thin like this, and you want to see how thin. So it's at its widest, it's 12 kilometers, at its narrowest, it's 6 kilometers, and it's just 41 kilometers long, and it has nearly 20 lakh people living there now. Now the Israelis controlled Gaza until say about 93-95, when the Oslo Peace Accords took place, and then they vacated it. In fact, when the Israelis vacated it, they were under a very strong right-wing leader, Ariel Sharon. But this was the peace accords at Oslo, so they vacated it. In fact, I think I had mentioned to you just a while back that Switzerland and Norway are still countries which maintain a relationship with Hamas. So you can see why Norway is the country which hosted the Oslo Peace Accords. And Norway sees itself as a peacemaker in large parts of the world, except particularly the poorer parts of the world. You know that they tried a lot in Sri Lanka with the Tamils as well. Now, in 2006, once Hamas took over this place, after winning an election, everything changed. Everything changed because Hamas does not accept the existence of Israel. Hamas has now changed its policy a little bit, but it's a very nuanced shift. They say, all right, we will accept reluctantly, we'll swallow the bitter pill, accept the existence of Israel if, number one, Israel withdraws to its pre-1967 territories. So Israel itself becomes like the panhandle it was supposed to be. Second, that it restores all the Palestinian territories to its original owners, and also it allows all of the Palestinian refugees to come back. You know how many people will that be compared to what the balance of Jews and Arabs and Palestinians in this tiny region will be as a result of that. Third, it should also pay reparations of all the excesses and violence that it has carried out on the Palestinians. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So it's a very qualified thing. Fateh, on the other hand, is much more conciliatory with Israel, and that is the reason why Hamas sees itself as a competitor and as a more popular element in Palestinian politics now going ahead, particularly with younger people. So after they took over in 2006, violence from Gaza directed at the Israelis increased. because that is their credo. They have to use weapons, they have to use arms, they believe in armed resistance. And in fact, even if you look at their national emblem, in the heart of the national emblem is Dome of the Rock, the mosque at Al-Aqsa, where the fighting took place in the last week of the Ramzan month, because East Jerusalem is what the Israelis don't want to give up, and East Jerusalem is what the Palestinians want. So they have it there, and their map of Palestine includes all of the territory that is today called Israel. So fighting started from Hamas's side in Gaza. 2006 they took over. 2007 they fought with Palestinian Fatah and threw them out of Gaza. 2008, violence increased between them and the Israelis. So Israelis then launched in 2008-9 a long operation called Operation Case Lead. After Operation Case Lead, trouble again started. So they launched in 2012 Operation Pillar of Defense. And again in 2014, when 3 Israeli teenagers were kidnapped and killed, apparently or allegedly by Hamas operatives, Israel again launched an operation. So while Qatar plays its games, because Qatar punches above its weight given its money power, given its location, given the fact that it maintains a relationship with Iran, also with America. America's big air base for the Middle East is in Qatar. It also has Al Jazeera, which also gives it a kind of moral authority and presence that no other Arab country has in the world by and large, but definitely not so in either the Islamic world or the Western world. So Qatar plays its games, and Qatar's ruler, who's Amir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, he is the only foreign head of state to have visited Gaza. But besides Qatar, Qatar is not being ambivalent as usual. It's playing everybody at the same time, because it gives the West and Israel the hope that it can help them settle the issue with Hamas. It gives Hamas the money for it to survive. It also balances many other forces in the Middle East. But unlike Qatar, Iran and Turkey openly support Hamas. Iran for obvious reasons, because Iran stands for the destruction of Israel, or the Zionist entity as they call it. And Turkey, although it recognizes Israel, it has diplomatic relations, none of which Iran does. Yet Erdogan has praised Ismail Haniyeh, who is the leader of Hamas, and offered support to them, and has also described Israel as a terrorist state. Now, what is this that Hamas has got? How many rockets, and where have they come from? There is a lot of intelligence literature and literature based on briefings by intelligence agencies, by good journalists and by good academics who follow this very closely. So Jerusalem Post in Israel, they quote Israeli intelligence sources to say that this group, Hamas, has about 5,000 to 6,000 rockets of various ranges. These can be from 8 kilometers, 4 kilometers to 80 kilometers, 90 kilometers. So they can reach the far end of Israel. Remember, Israel is a very small country, and Israel plus Palestinian region are still very small. So we might say that Gaza is very far away from the mainland of Palestinians, but the fact is that this 77 kilometer, it's only a 77 kilometer distance. 77 kilometer may look like nothing to people like us who live in large geographies, but in Israel 77 kilometers is a lot of distance. So from there, if they can fire missiles or these rockets which go 77, 80 kilometers and hit the other end of Israel, that is some power. So they have about 5,000 to 6,000 of these, plus there is another group called Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which supposedly has another 8,000 of these rockets. So right now it's a question of who runs out of rockets first. And Hamas hopes, and Israel's enemies, that is Iran and some others, they are expecting Israel either to run out of money, get bankrupted firing these very expensive rockets to stop Hamas's very cheap homemade rockets, or to just run out of them, so its system gets overwhelmed. It's like a bunch of very well trained, very well armed soldiers, maybe a platoon of them, can be run over by 10,000 adversaries who come and assault them, even if with cruder weapons. So that is what they think Hamas will be able to do with Israel, and that is what is going on. Now, the difference between Hamas and Fatah we explained to you. One is Islamic, one is secular, one wants to fight Israel, one wants to negotiate with Israel. Both want Israel to be back to its 1967 borders, but as far as Hamas is concerned, they want no Israel. They will accept unless it goes back to 1967 borders and fulfills the other conditions, including the right of return to all Palestinian refugees, elections in the Palestinian territories, full control, full state power to the Palestinian state, and also a payment of reparations to Palestinians, all of which is not going to happen. Now, where does the name Hamas come from? Now, Hamas, or Hamas as you would find it pronounced in the Western discourse and Middle Eastern discourse, that means in Arabic zeal, that's all. But the original name of the organization is Harakat al-Muqawameh al-Islamiyya, or Islamic Resistance Movement. Zeal or Hamas is just a nickname for it. On the other hand, Fatah has an interesting spin to its name. Fatah is the reverse of the acronym that would be its Arabic name. So, Harkat al-Tahriq al-Filistiniya, that is reversed as Fatah. How is it reversed? Because Arabic is written right to left, Roman or English is written left to right, as is Devanagari. So, they have just reversed those characters. So, it's become, Fatah has become a reverse acronym for Harkat al-Tahriq al-Filistiniya. Now, the other difference that Hamas has is Hamas has an armed wing. They do not call it the army, but they have an armed wing that Fatah no longer has. And this armed wing is called Izz al-Din Qassam Brigades. Izz al-Din Qassam Brigades, many countries who do not consider Hamas a terrorist organization consider this armed wing or Izz al-Din Qassam Brigades to be a terrorist organization. Now, this was named after a Syrian preacher of the 1920s, 30s, born in 1882, Syrian preacher by this name, who led, first of all, who led guerrilla warfare against the British, then against the French in Libya, then against the British in the Palestinian region, and then against the Zionists who were coming in. So, in fact, Tom Seagate, who is a well-known Israeli historian, is also very well known in India and respected in India. He describes Izz al-Din Qassam, who was a preacher turned fighter. He describes him as a kind of Joseph Trumpeldor of the Palestinians. Joseph Trumpeldor was a Jewish sort of revolutionary fighter, Zionist fighter, and heroic figure born in Russia, of Russian origin, who came in ahead and fought for the formation of a Zionist state. So, this was happening in 1920s, 30s, but both sides were fighting, one for Zionism, one against Zionism. So, both sides had their heroes. It's after the Palestinian or Arab hero, because Izz al-Din Qassam was not Palestinian, he was actually Syrian born. It's after him that Hamas has named its armed wing. So, that's the reason I said that what's happening right now is this very complex mix of history, geography, politics, ideology, religion, sects, and also ethnicity.